Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Acton in West London to Barnes in Southwest London. This ride takes just 25 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey takes close to an hour and requires multiple changes of lines or a very long hike. So cycling this journey can save you as much as half an hour. It's also a really pleasant ride. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute as well, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting outside Acton Central Station and we're going to turn right into Acton Park. Acton Park has a nice wide surfaced path which is shared with pedestrians. Because there will be people walking on the path as well, make sure you don't ride too quickly here and give everybody plenty of space. Unfortunately, Acton Park does close at night, so if you need to use this route later in the evening, then you'll want to use East Acton Lane, which runs parallel to it. It's not quite as quiet, but it does get you there. You can then use this Toucan crossing to cross over into Mansell Road, which is a cul-de-sac and therefore doesn't really have any traffic on it. One thing I would point out though is that there is a works depot at the far end of the street, so you might sometimes see HGVs or other vehicles coming down here to access it. At the end of Mansell Street, we go into Southfield Recreation Ground. Southfield Recreation Ground, unlike Acton Park, is 24-hour, but I would note that the paths are a little bit narrower here than they are in Acton Park, so you do need to be careful as you ride down here and give priority to pedestrians. There's also no street lighting in the park, which is something to keep in mind if you're doing this journey at night. This quite unassuming park does have a surprisingly interesting history. It was actually used as a test ground for tractors manufactured by the company Wilkinson Sword, which you may know today still makes razors, but back then made a wider variety of products, including tractors and, maybe less surprisingly, swords. The land was sold to the council in 1908 to create a new park. We're now on Carlton Road, which is usually a clear run with very little traffic, but today unfortunately it's blocked by my nemesis, Thames Water. They're digging the road up, so I've dismounted and I'm going to walk down the pavement and do my best to squeeze past the works here. This video was filmed a month or so ago and these works are now gone, so you shouldn't have any trouble coming through here and you'll just be able to cycle straight through. Now that we've cleared the works, I'm back on my bike and we'll start cycling again. For the next section, we're going to pick a quiet route through the back streets around here, and you shouldn't run into much traffic, although the carriageway is narrowed significantly by quite a lot of parking on both sides of the road. If you need to remember which way to go, you can actually keep an eye out for the signs pointing you down Cycleway 49, which is a TfL backstreet route which kind of weaves its way through the streets around here. We're not on C49 for its whole length by any means, but the signage for this section can be a useful visual clue to steer you onto Rustall Avenue from Southfield Recreation Ground. Alternatively, you can download the map of this route, which I provide a link for in the description below the video. It's in a GPX format which should work on most apps or devices. I do provide maps for all the routes I do on here, whether or not I mention it in the video. Now you can see these green and blue signs here pointing us towards this cycle zebra crossing, and we're going to use it to cross the road. Although that zebra crossing does give you priority crossing the road legally, do make sure that you're careful as you use it and others like it, as not all drivers respect them, especially when they see you on a bike. I do think that there is probably a case for a public information campaign around those parallel zebra crossings. They're relatively new innovations and I think not a lot of drivers know that they are meant to stop for people on bikes as well. We're now passing under two London Underground lines, the Piccadilly line and the District line, which run on that viaduct or bridge above Fisher's Lane. Fisher's Lane was closed to general motor traffic a few years ago, and that's made this a really nice quiet link towards the high road, which is where we're heading now. I would point out though that buses do still come down there, so do be careful as you join the road there at the bridge to avoid being hit by a bus. By the way, the very short section of Fisher's Lane that we were on as we approached the high road is actually just one way, so if you're doing this route in the opposite direction, then you'll either want to use Clifton Gardens or Bond Street for about 10 seconds to take you onto Fisher's Lane proper. Both are totally fine and really quiet, though it would be nice to see contraflow cycling put in on that end of Fisher's Lane just to complete that convenient link up towards Acton. Now, you probably noticed that we're cycling on the main road here, and we're benefiting from the protected cycle track that is Cycleway 9. This is a fantastic route which stretches all the way from Hammersmith in the east out to Kew Bridge in the west. It's also currently being extended out to Brentford in the west with similarly excellent quality protected lanes, although there is a small gap around Turnham Green which I think could be improved, and we can talk about that in other videos. It will eventually go all the way out to Hounslow Town Centre as well. The project is a joint effort of Hammersmith and Fulham and Hounslow councils as well as Transport for London, and I think they've all done a fantastic job. This is a really pleasant route which you constantly see loads of people cycling on, whether it be people getting to work or families just having a nice day out. Generally, the whole route is very safe and comfortable, but I do have one or two tips for riding on it. Just be aware of the side roads. Some of them, like this, are signalised and it's important not to skip the lights there. Others, like this one here, are not signalised, and it's important to pay attention as you cycle past those little junctions, as sometimes motorists don't look both ways on this two-way cycle track, as they're not necessarily expecting people to be cycling from both directions if they don't know the road well. You can end up with cars poking their nose out or just straight up pulling out in front of you when you've got priority and the right of way. Don't let it deter you from using this route at all. It is a fantastic, safe cycleway, but it's also something that you should be aware of as you go down here to make the most of it. That also goes for cars turning into side roads like this one here. The next extension of Cycleway 9 out to the west should be completed within the next few months, so I will be making loads of videos showing that off and explaining all the routes that it opens up out to Brentford. If you'd like to see those, do make sure that you hit subscribe on the channel if you haven't already, so that you see the new videos on your YouTube homepage as I post them. I do already have one or two videos out to Brentford already using different routes, and if you'd like to see those, the best way to track them down and see which ones are most useful for you is to use the London Cycle Routes map, which lays out all the videos in map form. You can find a link to this in the description below the video, and I'd also like to say a massive thanks to Isaac, who keeps that updated without fail every week, and also to John, who originally set it up. A lot of people ask if I could do something like this without knowing that one already exists, so do check it out if you use these videos to help you get around London and you'd like to see which ones are the most relevant to where you live or where you want to go. We've now turned off Cycleway 9 down Bridge Avenue, which takes us towards Hammersmith Bridge. There's a really useful legacy cycle crossing under the Hammersmith flyover here, which gets you across a really busy road in a really comfortable fashion. There are a few different ways that you can get to Hammersmith Bridge from Cycleway 9, but this is my favourite and I think the most pleasant to do. I've done previous videos featuring the cycle lanes on Hammersmith Bridge, but for those that don't know, the bridge has been largely closed to all motor and cycle traffic for a couple of years now, with pedestrians and dismounted cyclists allowed on the walkways to the side. However, for the last few months, it has been open on the main carriageway just for cycling. This has been a fantastic boost if you're getting around by bike, and has opened up loads of really useful routes in West London, including this one, which genuinely saves about half an hour compared to other modes of transport for the same journey. The main carriageway will be closing to cycles temporarily again for more stabilisation works over the summer, but will hopefully be opened again by the end of the year on a more permanent basis. If you are watching this video at a time when the bridge is closed for more stabilisation, then do not worry, you can still do this route, but you will have to walk your bike along the side walkways and dismount, which could add 1 or 2 minutes to your journey. It's not a particularly long bridge and it doesn't take a long time to walk over it, but it is quite nice to be able to cycle over it and just makes the whole thing convenient. So hopefully those works are relatively short when they take place. One extra advantage of the bridge being closed is that it also really quietens down Castle Now, which is the road that we're on now. We have a lightly protected cycle lane in this southbound direction and a bus lane that we can use in the northbound direction with very few buses on it. And normally I would say on a busy road that would be quite an inadequate cycle provision for me to do a route down here. But because the bridge is closed, there's very little through traffic on Castle Now going up this way. In fact, there's none because there's nowhere for it to go. So everyone driving down here is just accessing homes, businesses, etc. on the Barnes Peninsula, or is very lost. So these cycle lanes and the bus lane are, I think, totally adequate for cycling down here, given the really low levels of traffic that you get on the main carriageway. It does feel perfectly comfortable, and it takes you all the way into Barnes, which we're just arriving at now. If you want to go down to Barnes Green, by the way, you can turn off right and use Ferry Lane and some relatively quiet back streets to get to there. I've actually illustrated that in another video from Kensington to Richmond Park, which I will put up on your screen now if you'd like to watch it. But yeah, that's it. That gets us all the way from Acton to Barnes. And yeah, despite the relative indirectness of the route due to the river, it is significantly faster, in fact half an hour faster than taking public transport. And I would wager quite a bit faster than driving as well, since you can't use Hammersmith Bridge with a car. And obviously there's rush hour traffic to contend with when you're driving. It's not generally a good way of getting around London. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Do leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It helps boost the video in the YouTube algorithm and helps other people find it. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, so that you are alerted to new videos. And thanks so much to everyone who contributes to keep the channel running through the Patreon. If anyone else is feeling generous and would like to contribute a few quid as well, then you can find a link in the description below the video to send you there. Thanks so much, and I will see you in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'll see you again next time.